Hello there everyone, welcome to the channel if you're new, welcome back if you ain't, I'm EDJ, and now we're going to be continuing with some more Hannibal from Historia Civilis, and we're going to be looking at the Battle of Lake Trasimene, another catastrophe for the Romans as Hannibal brilliantly leads the hot-headed Flaminius to the side of a lake and then proceeds to basically push the entire Roman force into the lake, flooding it with bodies and blood. It's just insane. Another army wiped out from Hannibal Barca, and I can't wait to see, Historia Civilis bring this to life. With that said, without any further ado, let's get right into it. Oh wait, but first, link to the video down below. With that said, let's do this.
The Battle of Lake Trasimene was the second in a series of three major engagements fought between Carthage and the Roman Republic. All of these battles were significant, but Trasimene is special. It has the distinction of being the largest ambush in military history. Anyway, that's what a book told me.
You gotta give it to Historia Civilis. He has great humor. I have to say, what I like about Historia Civilis is that, yeah, he tells history, but in an oddly humorous way. And what I like about him is that he doesn't hold punches in regards to the stupid moments of history. When people other YouTube channels portray history, it's very straight-laced, this is what happened, leaves out any silliness or nonsense. I'm thinking of the battle with Crassus, the member of the Third Triumvirate, his Parthia invasion. Other videos kind of just have, oh, and he fell, during a peace negotiation with the Parthians, right? But Historia Civilis says, oh yeah, they met out, and then he got on a golden horse, he flipped over, fell on his face, and then got killed. That's what I'm talking about. He's not afraid to just tell the stupid or the silly or the awkward moments of history. And, he's oddly humorous about it. I don't know, it's just, that's something I notice about him that instantly makes him stand out from every other history YouTuber on here,
If you're anything like me, your first thought might be, that's impossible. What about the Battle of the Teutoburg Forest? Nope, I looked into it. That battle is much more famous, but slightly smaller in scale. If you're anything like me, your second thought might be, that's impossible. What about the World Wars? Nope, I looked into it. No sizable ambushes to speak of. But then again, if you're anything like me,
I think the Battle of Cannae is also, obviously it's one of the most celebrated military successes of all time. But I think what makes it so stand out is the amount of people that died in one day. Though obviously there have been bigger battles down in the line where more people have died, in a single day, but yeah, something about Cannae, I guess, is just unique because it happened a long time ago. I don't know.
Next thought might be, wait, what is an ambush? You obviously have to be concealed somehow, but does it count as hiding when you're in the sky? At which point you might think, shut up nerd, maybe don't bring it up if you don't know the answer. Anyway, 6 months after the decisive Carthaginian victory at the Trebia River, Hannibal was tap dancing across northern Italy, setting fire to everything, which drove the people in Rome crazy. New consuls were elected on a platform of the guys in office are a bunch of idiots, which, you have to admit, is a sensible thing to run on when you're losing a war. One of these new consuls quickly threw together a brand new army and left to chase down Hannibal. Once the Carthaginian scouts realized that they had a Roman army trailing them, they deliberately slowed down and let the enemy catch up. As the Romans were closing in, the Carthaginians were approaching a section of the road which had a lake on the right and some steep, tree-lined hills on the left. This is where the battle would take place. After night fell, Hannibal kept his men moving. He secretly continued up the road, turned left, and brought the bulk of his army back up around the other side of the hill. This is where they settled in for the night. I should probably touch on the sizes of these two armies.
Yeah, the fact that Hannibal could conceal thousands upon thousands of men to silently move and hide themselves against the Romans That's insane, right? The organization you need and like the skill you need to pull something like that off, especially when the enemy has scouts and stuff, is just wild to me.
Hannibal had a total of 50,000 men, with around 40,000 infantry and 10,000 cavalry. His army had grown in size after his stunning victory at the Trebia River. He now had a total of 17,000 Gauls fighting at his side, all of whom carried a serious grudge against the Romans. The Roman army had around 30,000 men in it, and they were mostly infantry with an insignificant number of cavalry. Obviously, the Romans were chasing a larger army, but they may not have known this. My guess is that they were working with old intelligence and didn't know about Hannibal's new Gallic allies. You see, the Romans hated scouting. They thought it was kind of boring and undignified, so sometimes they just didn't bother. This was going to turn into a huge problem. The next morning, the non-existent gods must have been favoring Hannibal, because the two armies woke to a heavy fog. The Roman consul blindly had his army advance along the road in a giant column, without sending any scouts ahead to try and get some eyes on the Carthaginians. It turns out that they were watching the whole procession from the top of the hill. Suddenly, the column stopped. The Romans had no way of knowing this, but Hannibal had secretly left some of his elite heavy infantry at the far end of the hill. Due to the fog, the Romans just stumbled into them, and fighting spontaneously broke out at the front of the column. The men further back were not aware of the enemy contact, and were just left wondering why the column had stopped. At this point, the main Carthaginian force had begun to silently advance down the hill. Due to the trees and the fog, the Romans were caught completely unaware when an entire army appeared out of nowhere and charged the entire length of the column. As this attack was happening, Hannibal ordered his cavalry to backtrack a bit and charge the rear of the Roman column, which cut off any potential escape. A weird side note, the Roman consul was widely known as an expert at fighting Gauls.
Yeah, Flaminius, right? And he got killed by a Gaul because they saw him and he was like, awesome, let's murder him, you know? Man, just brilliant. Dude, Hannibal's the master of catching his enemies unawares, sneaking around his forces, ambush his flanks. Just, the man was on another level, dude. I'm surprised Carthage produced someone like him, because as we saw with the Historia Civilis, you know, Hannibal series, Carthage kind of sucks. Like, at least when fighting the Romans. I don't know about every Carthage war. I've only seen the first and second Punic War, which Carthage overall sucks outside of the Barcas. I saw the Pyrrhus War, Pyrrhus of Epirus from Kings and Generals, and Pyrrhus made short work of the Carthaginians in Sicily, so yeah, I'm getting the impression they weren't good. Like, I don't know everything about them. Maybe there are other wars where they performed spectacularly, but for what I've seen, yeah. Which just shocks me more that Hannibal came from that and somehow became like one of Rome's greatest enemies. It's wild.
Famously wore a Gallic scalp attached to his helmet, which is both disgusting and a great way to differentiate yourself politically. Unfortunately, that runs both ways. The Gauls in the Carthaginian army knew his name, knew his face, and knew his disgusting helmet.
Oh my gosh.
They made it their business to find him during the battle, and they did. The consul was dead in minutes, and God knows what they did to him.
I can imagine.
A lot of things were happening at once, and the Romans weren't prepared for any of it. Every escape route was cut off, so many men just broke and ran straight into the lake. Countless men drowned trying to swim in their armor. There's one account of masses of Roman soldiers standing in neck-deep water, begging to be killed. The Romans at the head of the column, who first made contact with the enemy, did have some success. Around 6,000 men broke through the Carthaginian roadblock and ran like hell. But they didn't get far. They were easily captured some hours later by the Carthaginian cavalry. The battle was over, and it was a decisive Carthaginian victory. They lost only 2,500 men, while the Romans lost virtually everyone. Around 15,000 Romans were killed, and another 15,000 were taken prisoner. The Romans were traumatized by this loss. They had suffered two monumental defeats back to back. They decided that next time they weren't going to be tricked, and they weren't going to be ambushed, and they definitely were not going to be outnumbered. Next time, they would come at the Carthaginians with everything they had and fight in a way that they fought best. As it turned out, the next battle would take place near a town called Cannae, and would become the most famous battle in human history. That'll be coming next week, so be sure to subscribe if you don't want to miss it.
Is he done?
Tribute to my Patreon campaign.
Okay, so yes, another great movement from Hannibal. I can't wait to watch the Battle of Cannae next time. I'll be seeing you all then, alright? Bye everyone.